We have been joined by Josephine Gauld, the new British High Commissioner to Sierra Leone who replaced Lisa Chesney. Now, the new British High Commissioner is here to talk about the bilateral relationship between Sierra Leone and the UK, UK support to Sierra Leone and her plans to improve it. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
So, briefly, who is Josephine Gauld? What do we need to know about you? Your previous postings as well.
So I have been in Sierra Leone for nearly 2 months now, so about 6 or 7 weeks. And most of my career I've spent working in different countries in Africa. So I've came most recently from working in Kenya. Before that I was the British ambassador in Côte d'Ivoire. I've also spent time in Nigeria and DRC and spent some time covering Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. So I've spent a lot of time in West Africa, and it's very nice to be back in the region.
And do you love it here in West Africa?
I do like West Africa. I think it's probably my favorite.
So, where did you get the motivation from in actually taking up the role of the High Commissioner?
Having spent a lot of time in West Africa, I've known lots of the previous High Commissioners working here. So a lot of them are friends, and they've always spoken really highly about the experience they had in Sierra Leone. So it was always on my list of, if I can get that job as High Commissioner in Sierra Leone, I would love to do it. I think because of the shared history and the kind of nature of our relationship, which really covers everything and it's really kind of deep, it's seen as quite it's quite an important role for us, and so it was one I had my eye on, and it's delighted to be here.
Okay, so what are your key priorities as you set off to work?
Seeing what more we can do between our two countries, and really we have a new government in the UK since a few months ago, and we're very keen to make sure that the sort of central pillars for them is lots of work on climate change, lots of work on growth, which is for the UK economy, but also how we work with other countries to kind of promote growth, creation of jobs, and everyone sort of for economies to thrive. So I think a lot of work around that will be interesting. We've got a group of investors coming next week, for example, some of the international development finance institutions coming to look at projects and Sierra Leonean businesses in particular that they can potentially invest in. It's the kind of larger scale side of things, but I think what we can do economically is really interesting. We've got COP coming up in a few months, so I think we'll be increasing our conversations on climate change and how that impacts. Since I've been here, everyone told me the rain stops. I'm still waiting for that, but I mean, you've got the blessing of a lot of rain, but also that comes with challenges, I think, for the farmers, for the stability, with the risk of landslides and things like that. So it's such a live issue in many countries.
I scrolled through your X account and noticed you visited Big Market on the 11th of October. Suppose we were beguiled by the treasure trove of local memorabilia you saw there and artifacts. I quote, you wrote, by supporting local enterprises and working together on economic development, we can promote a sustainable business environment and livelihoods. How do you intend doing this?
I think in different ways, and I'm still trying to learn about the context. I haven't been here very long, so I don't want to kind of go too far. I'm certainly no expert on what makes Sierra Leone tick and how things work. But I think, one area of work we do a lot of work in is kind of, for example, the electricity sector. I think having, for many businesses, just having that reliable electricity supply is what will make them be able to work. I think there's some of the kind of the wider context of, just what facilitates. It's sort of having the right policy base, so it's right having the kind of right tax basis, so that the government is getting the revenue, but it's kind of deemed fair, that people are buying into those kind of systems. Many different areas. We're working a lot with kind of women's groups as well on some of the issues which will be important for them. So some of that will affect women in business. I think there'll be many different approaches, but I think private sector is is hugely important in any country.
So you speak about, energy. Sierra Leone has just joined the Accelerated Partnership for Renewables in Africa with other 6 countries, Kenya, Ethiopia, Namibia, Rwanda, Ghana, and apparently Zimbabwe. What possible ways would you profile that the government uses to actually bank on renewable energy as the way forward for sustainable energy in Africa?
I think there's so much happening now, and there's so much new technology which is making it really, it's not just a pipe dream, it's a sort of reality. So we're doing a lot of work here with in Sierra Leone on solar, whether it's sort of mini grids to allow communities which are a little bit more remote to have that access to power just by having their own grid, sort of standalone, because sometimes it's hard to get that mains power in everywhere. We've also been working with just getting solar power with hospitals, so that hospitals can have that kind of continuous supply of energy that they need, whether it's to just to kind of run the machines and to look after their patients. So I think there's kind of many different layers of it, but I think you've got in Sierra Leone you've got so much potential with the renewable energy sector that there's real combining the kind of technology and the environment that you have. There's real potential. It's just the challenge is always getting the investment in and getting the pricing right, so that it can be run and maintained, I think.
Speaking of the local communities, already you've paid a visit to Bo, Kenema and Makeni.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of that visit, and of course what is your impression from meeting with these local representatives and community leaders?
So I think it's very easy, when you're in the capital city, it's very easy to kind of feel like you're in a little bit of a bubble. So I was keen to get out and see a little bit more of Sierra Leone as early as I could. So that was very interesting. It was nice to meet a different range. So we met some of the paramount chiefs, we met some of the regional ministers, some of the mayors, and just it was a good opportunity to hear about what's happening in all the different cities. So it was a bit of a city tour. I haven't made it to the kind of real heartland or villages, but it was interesting also to meet some of the businesses. I went to visit some of the electricity projects, went to some hospitals where we've been supporting special care baby units, for example, at Kenema Hospital. So I could meet some of the mothers and find out where they'd travelled from and how they felt about having that kind of resource in their community.
What are some of the important insights, that you picked up from that visit, whether it's the challenges or the strength that are a bit common to these communities?
One of the challenges that all the cities were telling us was about the challenges of waste management. That was a real big theme. It's quite a big burden, and I think it's. That's one which is quite interesting. Coming from Kenya, that was something we spent a lot of time working on in Kenya, for example. And there's a lot of innovation about how to turn waste into profit with sort of recycling and things like that. So. And there's quite a lot of interesting technology about what you can do with that. So that's something I would like to kind of try and understand a little bit more of. And also seeing all the kind of agricultural potential. We met some very interesting businesses, but there's, what else can be, I think there was a lot of interesting conversations about how you can add value in the local communities, sort of closer to the farmers, and how you ensure that the access to markets, whether it's export markets or ensuring products are getting to the local markets without fruit and vegetables going to waste, and or can you transform, for example, mangoes, turning them into juice near to where they're being grown, and then you're making sure you're using all of that, all that you're producing.
The sectors are many and the issues are many. But let's talk about the immediacy. Your term has just begun, actually. But what particular pies do you care to stick your finger in as you begin?
That is a good question, because there's so much potentially to do.
Indeed.
So we've got the sort of the broad areas of work where we as the kind of UK have traditionally had a good strong partnership with with Sierra Leone, so there's lots of work in the health sector, lots of work in education, particularly encouraging girls to stay in school and complete their education. As I said, lots of work around the sort of energy sector. I think we'd like to do a bit more on the private sector side of things. And then there's, for example, at the moment we have one of our scholarship programs for master's students is running, so we've been doing lots of promotion for that and getting lots of great applications for students who want to go and study a master's in the UK starting next year. That's called the Chevening program. So so there's a bit of that. We have, and there's sort of interesting culture. I think I'd love to do a bit more about the cultural side of things. I know there's some, there's quite a good exchange of lots of Sierra Leones in the UK who are doing exciting things in the cultural space, particularly music and fashion. And so learning about all that which is going on is really interesting too.
In most cases, the bureaucracy would be quite enormous, to access people like your kind. How can locals, for instance, access your services or the UK embassy?
What sort of services we? Well, I suppose it's sort of limited in terms of what kind of services we do. We have some programs. For example, like I was saying, working with kind of women's organisations, and those we're really working with kind of grassroots organisations. And those, they tend to be through, we put most things on our sort of social media as well. If there's any announcements or any calls for the Chevening Scholarship Programme, for example, that's also kind of quite widely promoted on our social media, on Facebook and on X primarily. So I think we try and be quite transparent and public for what's on offer.
Indeed.
Yeah.
With Lisa as well going, she was also passionate about women's empowerment, and that's actually an area of significant impact even here in Sierra Leone. So what are your plans towards that?
Firstly, I want to kind of really understand what we're doing already in that sector, and I hope to be able to get to meet some of the organisations we've been working with, because I think our approach, for example, with some of the kind of women's activists is really to say what is important to you and how can we enable and facilitate you to do it. So we don't want to dictate what they do, because we know that there's a lot of really kind of passionate women's groups out there who've got issues that they want to work on, whether it's combating gender-based violence, looking after kind of young women and making sure that they're kind of completing school or returning to school if they've had babies. There's so many different issues, and I think it's really important just to be able to support the people who already are committed to those issues, to have that voice and just give them a little bit more of a platform, or encourage them and support them. So I'll see what's going on and then see what I can do to help. Obviously, we've got the 16 days of action coming up against gender-based violence, so I'm sure we will be, as a whole, the UK and Sierra Leone, we will be getting very actively involved in that too.
You've worked for over 22 years since you started.
Doesn't feel that long, but it sounds long, yeah.
Indeed. What particular things have you learned generally? I don't want to categorize about Africa since you began, because much of your work has, revolved or reveled around African countries,
Yeah, I don't know if one can really generalize, but I think it's, and because sometimes after so long you don't realize what you're taking for granted.
Indeed.
But I think probably one theme which I see as maybe a little bit more distinct compared to when I'm talking to colleagues who are working in maybe Europe or North America, is that it's so much more about the human relationships. I think everything starts with how you get on with people, getting to know people and understanding where they're coming from, and really after a period of time when you really have those kind of relationships, then things can be quite easy, I think, in Africa, because you just, if you know who to talk to, you just have to understand though where people are coming from, I think, to be able to get business done.
Indeed. There are a lot of local delicacies. I'm sure perhaps you've tasted a few of them. Have you?
I have, but not enough yet. Not enough. So I'm keen to take recommendations on what's best. When we were in Bow, we went to the Gary factory, and so I came back with some bags of Gary, which I will. I need to cook this weekend.
You've eaten Gary?
I have,
Yeah.
but I've got some more. I haven't had my Bow Gary yet, so that's the
Okay.
Sunday breakfast maybe. I've got.
Definitely. You should also try out cassava leaves. Have you?
I haven't. No, everyone keeps telling me to try cassava leaves, and that I have not had yet. So,
all right. So Sierra Leone's population is largely made up of the younger people, and of course that is also very important for opportunities for education and the likes. What programs are also in line to see that, of course, the younger generation actually do have sustainable jobs or create opportunities, that would help them, and also those in the rural areas?
Yeah. Well, we have been working in sort of the education space for a long time, and the UK, I think, is maybe one of the only of sort of international partners who's working a lot on secondary education as well. So with the Lay We Learn program, which we've been doing for a long time, which is about encouraging particularly girls to stay in school and dealing with issues around school violence. And I went to a school last week in Makeni, I think it was, and the girls there did a brilliant bit of theatre, just really good kind of education about menstrual hygiene, and really kind of teaching all their peers about things like that. So making sure that girls stay in school as well during the period when they're on their menses is, there's just small changes like that I think are having a really big impact on ensuring children are staying in school. One thing we're looking at now though is how we can help work with the school system about ensuring quality outcomes as well of that education. So kids are going to be in school, but also it's really important to look at how much they're learning, what they're learning, and are they getting the right life skills for the world they're going out into. And that's something we've been looking at a lot in the UK too, is that the world of work is changing. So some of the kind of traditional jobs are changing, and there's a lot more potential in some of the kind of innovation, entrepreneurship, IT. How do you prepare all these young people to work in that world? And I think inevitably some of it is going to be a lot more about people finding their own opportunities rather than having that kind of working for a big formal sector employer. So
I've been seeing a few comments here on our Facebook page, just I think one or two. This one is from Abubakar Rashid, and he's saying, Madam High Commissioner, you said you've spent about 7 weeks in Sierra Leone. What's your general assessment of the country and the people? From your ex, you have visited big markets. Is that the only place you've visited?
No, I've been to lots of other places too. On a superficial level, I think your drivers are incredibly polite. I'd like driving here compared to so many other places I've been. I think it's quite a nice. There's a nice vibe. The nature is beautiful. I love the views as you drive around Freetown. The board houses I think are stunning. That's there's another kind of you find these amazing board houses dotted around, and I think there's very few. It strikes me there's very few cities in Africa I've been to where you've got such kind of historic buildings scattered around in so many places. So yeah, no, so far it's been a sort of a mixture of work and a little bit of discovery. I tried to go and see whales off Banana Island. Unfortunately, the whales had all decided to stay underwater. So small. I'm getting out there to look at things.
By the way, you said small. Which other Creole phrases have you learned?
A little bit. I'm understanding it better than I'm speaking. So I know Lisa got she set me a high bar to try and catch up with. So and she has been famous for her good Creole. But I'm starting to take a few lessons.
Okay.
So. You will learn on a small number.
Yes. It's easier to understand than to know what to say back.
Okay, the responses.
Indeed. This other guy, Michael Somasima Jr., saying, good morning, OIV, to the Commissioner. Can she tell us what are the programs available at the Commission, and how can someone go about them, the requirements and the likes?
So mostly the programs are kind of fairly big, so we'll be sort of in negotiation with different suppliers. I think the best thing is probably to kind of look on our social media just to see some of the range of things that we do, and if there are things where where we're looking to encourage people, we'll be advertising it there. So, for example, the current live one is the Chevening Scholarships program.
Mosday is saying, welcome Commissioner. Your predecessor was fond of dressing in our local designs. Are you looking forward to be doing the same in helping to promote our local brands?
Absolutely. So I have spent a lot of time and probably spent far too many leones on buying fabric already. And yes, now I've already had several things made here, and I will be making more. So.
I know friend says she seems to enjoy baking cake at her leisure. Chocolate cake.
Just once.
I noticed that was your first. I
Well,
read from your ex account.
Yes.
That was your first baking here.
Yes, well that was because I got, so when we were up in Kenema, I got some cocoa. So that was my Sierra Leonean cocoa, which was also, I think what is special there is that there's a company transforming it into cocoa and chocolate mass and cocoa mass, and so it's actually doing the transformation work in country as well, because a lot of that happens, if it's just beans being, the cocoa beans being exported, it's fine, but if you can add some value and create some jobs around that, and also have a little bit of that kind of Sierra Leone brand identity, I think that's great, because also it's the fact that it's all organic, you can target different markets for that, so. It was good. It was really good. Yeah.
I hope it tastes.
It's gone.
Tastes
yes.
nice.
It's all gone.
Okay.
It tasted great.
This guy Michael is asking about asking after the website. Where he could access this. I'm sure he's talking about the Chevening Scholarship.
Yeah. So on Facebook it's UK and Sierra Leone, and on X it's UK and Sierra Leone, and that would have that has the relevant links. So that's probably the easiest way to access it.
Well, we are gradually rounding off this edition of the program, and we're still joined by the current British High Commissioner to Sierra Leone, Her Excellency Josephine Gauld. As we draw to conclusion this morning, what take-home would you like to share with us, from your visits and all that you've seen and heard since you came to Sierra Leone?
Well, I'm really, really keen to learn more. I think I'm definitely still in the learning phase. Before I came here, I was really struck, and I've never had it about anything else, that so many people I met who had previously worked in Sierra Leone over the last maybe 10, 15, 20 years, told me that this was the most sort of special place they'd ever been in their diplomatic or professional career. And I've never heard that. You might get one person, but not many. And so many people I met in my preparations as well, you kind of felt it was their personal connections and passion for foreigners, for Sierra Leone, which was really kind of driving programs, projects. So I know the country's got a huge amount to offer, and I've worked in the past as well with some really amazing Sierra Leoneans in the international space. So I'm really looking forward to kind of meeting more and seeing everything that's going here, and then seeing how we can work together, beyond the football. I know there's which is it always amazes me how passionate everyone is about the English Premier League around the world, and the heated conversations in the High Commission every morning after a match. It's quite something. There's everyone's got their colours very clearly marked, so it's there's so much to the relationship that we can continue to develop on every level. So.
Exactly.
Well, we do wish you well, and hope that you succeed in your professional journey.
Thank you very much.
Indeed.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, well, this is where we will end today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone.